when I was in primary school in the south of England, my favorite part of the school year would be in the summer, warmer months. Teacher would allow us to come out of the classroom, sit under a big tree, and she'd tell us stories. And I've always loved stories, hearing stories, sharing stories, telling stories. And of course, the first stories you hear when you're a child tend to be include Aesop's fables. And I was just reminded of a Aesop fable the other day. So I'm going to start the retreat by telling you one of my favorite Aesop fables. And it concerns a group of young mice in a house, and they're very playful and they run around and have a great time. But their happiness is marred by the presence of a cat. This cat's very smart and sharp and quick and ruthless, and constantly catching mice and killing them. So the mice have a meeting. What can they do about this problem with the cat? And then one of the mice comes up with a bright idea. And the idea is that they put a little bell around the cat's neck. And so whenever the cat comes close and is threatening any of the mice, the bell will tinkle. And it will be an early warning system. And so all the mice congratulate the mice who proposes this solution. And they're all very happy and relieved. And then one of the elder mice says, yeah, that's a really good idea, but who's going to put the bell around the cat's neck? And so the reason I was thinking about this the other day was reflecting on sila, and how since I've been in Thailand, and I always hear people, monks and lay people and nuns saying, all we need in this country is for people to keep the 5 precepts. If people just all kept the 5 precepts, everything would be great, and we'd get on very well, and we wouldn't have all the suffering that we have today. They say, yeah, if everybody kept the 5 precepts, but how's that ever going to happen? Like how is a mouse ever going to put a bell around a cat's neck? Yeah, it's the idea of it sounds great, and it sounds very, very Buddhist to say, if everybody kept precepts, then, the society would be in such a much better place than it is today. Well, yes, certainly, but how would that ever come about? And with precepts, the essential point to remember is that, unlike in a ethical system based upon belief in a power, a being, or someone who can reward you for being good and punishing you for being bad, and these rules are to be obeyed without question, the Buddhist view of precepts is that they are trainings. So in the precept ceremony, just now, if you remember the word that you sikkhapadang samadhiyami for each precept. So that word sikkhapadang comes the word from sikkhapada, sikkha, which means training. Pada means like a point of training. And samadhiyami means I will take up and uphold that training. Interestingly, that word samadhiyami comes from the same root as upadhyami or upadana, which means to grasp and to cling onto something. But this thing that we are undertaking is to hold something wisely, just in the way that you would hold a torch or a flashlight wisely in a dark place. You're not going to attach to it forever, but while you're in that dark place, you hold on to it. You don't let it go easily. So you take the precepts seriously. In other words, you have respect for precepts, and you use the precepts as a training. So the training that the Buddha, the education that the Buddha gave us, is one of body, speech, and mind, action, speech, and mind. So although we are emphasizing the formal meditation practice during this retreat, we also have a very good opportunity to study, observe firsthand in real time the relationship between sila, the training of body and speech, with the training of the heart, and just a small point here that in the threefold training, sila, samadhi, and panya, the word samadhi does not refer to concentration. It refers to the whole training of the heart. So it's the same word, but it is in a different context. So when we say sila is the basis for samadhi, we don't just mean jhana or different levels of meditation, stillness, but the whole training, the whole abandonment of unwholesome dhammas and development of wholesome dhammas, and then finally wisdom, the understanding, the vision of the way things are. So the Buddha talked about purity on many occasions, and so many of these abstract terms have to be approached very carefully, and we shouldn't rush to the conclusion that because we have a kind of similar word in our own language, that it necessarily means what the Buddha meant. And for example, in terms of the purity of conduct, then the Buddha wanted to refraining from harming, from stealing, and from sexual misconduct as purity of body, of purity of action, in one sutta in Anguttara Nikaya, and the purity of the heart, purity of speech, as abstaining from lying and speaking harshly and speaking divisively or speaking trivial gossip. So it's not like a state of purity, but it's a dynamic quality. It's when you are when your speech is free from those kinds of wrong speech, at that moment, your speech is pure. It's not like you attain a state of purity, but here purity is defined by the absence of certain impure ways of talking and certain impure actions. And the wisdom is purified. The wisdom is purified through abandonment of wrong views and wrong thinking or wrong intention. So we are purifying speech. It's not that we're purifying actions and speech. It's not like we have this goal of purity and we want to be pure people. But it's that we can purify, just as we can purify the air of like PM 2.5 particles. So we have a certain criteria for what purity means. And the purity we want is the purity which is conducive to growth on the path. So the precepts, the 8 precepts, are objects of mindfulness. They are training. And it's when you take a precept and then you uphold it in your mind, and so you recollect it. It's part of the way that you relate to the world. It's the form in which you meet the world around you. Then by voluntarily taking upon yourself certain boundaries for your actions, then you become aware of all the forces within you, without you, which are pulling you into unwholesome and unwise action. When you take upon yourself certain boundaries for your speech, similarly, and by doing so and keeping that in your mind, then you become aware of all the intentions to speak unwisely. So these practices, the practice of keeping precepts, the training of keeping precepts, is a training in mindfulness. It's a training of patience, and it's a wisdom practice, because whenever you take on a boundary, you become aware of everything outside that boundary or things which are trying to break through that boundary. And this is very clear, as I mentioned just now with the meditation object. Your boundary is you're going to keep your attention within the breath, the sensation of the breath. And so by doing so immediately, you become aware, maybe painfully aware, of everything else in your mind and the particular patterns and habits that you have and the things that take you away or prevent you from staying within that boundary. So from the very beginning of practice, keeping precepts, putting your mind on an object, you are allowing yourself to be aware of all that's going on in your body and mind, and to be able to train the mind to free itself from all the assumptions and attachments and so on, which become clear to you because you apply your mind. So meditation is far from being a passive activity. It's an effortful activity. And the 4 kinds of right effort, these are that are very much at the heart of what we're doing on this retreat. We don't conceive of it as we're trying to get this state of mind or this level of samadhi. Maybe that will happen, maybe it won't. But it's far wiser and more helpful to look at it in terms of these 4 or 5 days, I'm going to learn how to protect my mind so that unwholesome mental states which cause suffering don't enter my mind. This is my goal, to become more proficient, to be more successful in taking care of my mind, learning how to do that, and learning how to deal wisely, well, when unwholesome mental states do enter my mind, learning how to deal with unwholesomeness when it does arise in my mind. Not just looking for distraction, turning my back on it, repressing it, just giving into it, but learning a wiser way of dealing with unwholesome mental states, and learning how to put effort into bringing into my mind wholesome states which are not yet present or very rarely present. And lastly, putting effort into recognizing and finding the best ways of looking after, strengthening, stabilizing, and increasing and growing and nurturing those mental states. So when the effort is, when our intention is focused in this way, it's what we're doing, it's our actions, rather than the results that we want. And here we have the faith that if we put forth the right effort consistently, there will be results. What those results will be, we have no way of knowing. But our intention is on the effort itself, on the creation of the causes. The results will come or they won't come. And the simile that many of you will be familiar with is one given by Lumpur of growing a tree. And you know that your responsibility is to choose the best place to plant the tree and then to take care of it, to water it and to protect it from its enemies. And so you take responsibility for what you can take responsibility for. And you recognize that the speed at which that tree grows and how many fruits are produced by it, how sweet they are, all those things are beyond your control. So in practice, the results are outside of our control. There are so many different factors and so many different possibilities and conditions. But what we can take responsibility for, and which can give us this sense of, yeah, I'm really spending my time well, is this sense of the progress in applying these 4 right efforts. So, as I mentioned before, it's usually first day or so, it goes through a lot of sleepiness and dullness and agitation, and it's completely normal. How could it be otherwise, unless you're very diligent meditators? But there's change of time, change of place, change of rhythm, and so many things are going to impact on your meditation. How could they not? So it's a matter of recognizing that and just just the way that you massage something, you just, you don't go full out. You just keep, you work around, and if you've been on retreats before, you remember, I've been through this before. If I'm just diligent and patient and just keep going, I'll come through it. And that's the way of using the past, the memories of the past, to help you in the present. So being in the present doesn't mean repressing and forgetting all the things you've learned in the past. That wouldn't be wise at all. But learning how to use memory to help you on the practice. So we're training and we're learning and we're observing. And when you're struggling, you can say, I had a lot of dullness, or I'm very agitated. But I put a lot of effort into my practice. And you can see, if any of you have been at forest monasteries and done the all-night sittings, all-night practice, then it's very common that you feel it's like a struggle all through the night. And most people will go through periods of dullness and sleepiness and even falling asleep. But the following day, they often feel very peaceful because of the momentum of the effort, rather than the samadhi that they experience necessarily, but because of the benefits of all that consistent effort has created a momentum of practice. And throughout the first day or so here, similarly, just starting again, being the one of the dolls that you knock over and you just pops up again, and again, and finding some joy in that I'm putting forth effort in the way that the Buddha and all the great teachers have recommended. I'm following in their footsteps. So there are always obstacles, and the coarser obstacles of sleepiness and agitation maybe hopefully diminish, and then there are other maras, other challenges, and so wanting to have meditation without challenges, it's not so realistic, and it's more the effort is like, I'm learning from this. I'm learning how to put effort into my mind, both to prevent as far as possible these hindrances from arising in the first place, and I'm learning skillful means of dealing with them. And I would say that no matter what meditation method that you use and what access you have to teachings and teachers, there is always, I would say almost always, the end come down to a certain amount of trial and error. There's no, let's say you go on a retreat, just you and an arahant, the two of you, and you can ask him or her any question you want 24 hours a day, and you think, well, that would be ideal. But at the end of the day, or there's still certain amount of trial and error involved. It's not possible to reduce this practice down to point 1, point 2, point 3, and I personally, I'm a bit wary of this technique-based approaches and level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4, because in my experience, there's so many commonalities and ways in which we are similar, but there are also ways in which each of us has our own kind of constellation of defilements and particular pattern of things that work and things that don't work, and even sometimes we have to come up with things that are not in books and that we've never heard from teachers, and to be even a little bit creative. But once you understand how defilement arises and how defilement passes away, that gives you more confidence. That you have to worry, I've never seen this in a book, but this actually works. And that's how practice develops. So teachers give you some pointers and some examples and some possibilities, but it's not like do this, and then everything will be okay. These are general principles. We can directly say this general principle is correct and this is incorrect, but in the application of them, then everyone's a little bit different. So in retreats, apart from the normal practice of right speech, then we have this practice of keeping silence. And this is such a powerful practice and valuable, and a practice that's almost impossible to develop outside of this kind of environment. So do take advantage of it. And when we keep silent, then first of all we become aware of the intention to speak, and because we're not acting upon it, and so that we can learn an awful lot from that, can't we? How often speech is just a means to reduce or eliminate some sense of discomfort, or it's just a habit, basically, of having some noise, something going on. In many people who live by themselves, elderly people particularly, like to just keep the television on the whole time. Just the sound of some voice, is somebody talking or something going on, is very comforting to them. We're a bit like that, we want to have something going on, both in our mind and if we're in the presence of other people and in speech. And so we're going against that. We're living together for a few days and we're not making any attempts to create new friendships, make friendship, or to sustain friendship, to add on to what's already there. And that's a wonderful freedom, just to be nobody for a few days. And again, standing back in a retreat, and in this strange world that we find ourselves in, you're in a world where nobody cares what you look like. Basically, you don't have to worry about your hair and makeup and your physical appearance. And notice, is that a big difference? Maybe some of you are very indifferent to those things already, but probably they will play a part in your life. And just to see what it feels like, that you don't have to worry about whether you're looking attractive or interesting, and how you are appearing to other people, and whether your people like you or don't like you, whether people want to be in your company or they don't, whether they find you interesting, or all that stuff, that stuff that's so stressful. And you just at a stroke, you can put all that behind you, and just a body. You're just a body and a mind right here and now. And by not speaking, that enables that. That's a very important condition to allow that to happen. Because if you're still speaking, then there's so much of that sort of self promotion and expression just naturally comes out in social intercourse, and that's not something that we have to worry about in this environment. So recognize just how wonderful that is, and how light that is. So you don't have to be anybody to anybody, and you don't have to be, a son or a daughter or a brother or a sister, a spouse, a mother or a father or anything. You're just a meditator. You're just someone who's applying themselves to Buddha's teachings. So coming inside and looking and observing, and that putting forth of effort, and with the ubiquity of social media and how much time we spend on our telephones and devices, that so much of human life these days is consumption, and we become consumers and become addicted to that sense of consumption and that desire to be occupied and entertained, and how that means that our ability to be with experience when it's not particularly interesting or stimulating is very weak. This is the another value that's in retreats that we're just developing or coming back to give some more input energy into our tolerance of a lack of stimulation. So when I talk to teenagers, it's one of these things that I repeat a lot, probably too much, but they when teenagers sort of, we don't want to be told what to do. That's sort of like it's kind of worst possible thing in their life, to be told what to do. And I say, the big dictator in your life who you obey without any demur is boredom. Just notice that the moment a sense of boredom arises, that's it, I want to do this, it's boring. It's not exciting enough, it's not interesting enough. And how powerful that sense of boredom is, and how mindlessly most people react to it. And so this is another very valuable thing we learn in meditation, because if we ask ourselves, why does the mind slip away from the breath or the meditation object? What is the first thing that occurs? We say, just one moment your mind's on the breath, one moment it's not. But there's a moment of dissatisfaction, a moment of boredom, as there's not enough in the breath for me right now. I want something more than this. And recognizing that power of dissatisfaction, which manifests as boredom and leads to distraction. This is something we can really study and learn and find ways of dealing with wisely during meditation retreat. So this is a learning experience. It's not like applying certain techniques in order to get certain results in a certain limited number of days. But we're all sharing in this learning and exploration. This is how I'd like you to frame this retreat. And when, as I say, when you look at this as a learning and exploration, then there's only benefit. There's no downside. Even some parts are more difficult than others, some more enjoyable than others. But in terms of understanding this body, this mind, these five khandhas, this life, then we have a wonderful opportunity. And so I would like to end this short Ovada at this point.